Good evening, y'all, and we are back.
What up, what up, what up?
With another episode of the M.A.Y podcast. Malcolm and A.Y here. And we got a couple we have more than a couple topics, but we got like a short amount of topics that we're going to touch on tonight. Some contemporary, some just because. But A.Y, how you feeling this week? How you feeling today?
It's a long ass week. I've been doing a lot of homework. Like today, I think I've done like maybe 8 hours of homework. I'm tired. I'm not gonna lie. Been grinding.
Yeah. Now we're hitting a wall. Like we're only a month away from graduation, and then we're only like 3 weeks, practically 2.5 weeks away from conference. So, yeah,
I got a question for you.
What's up?
So, given that the assistant director of the M.A.Y literally just got posted today as a job, why do you think that is? Do you think you think Coach Morgan's potentially
you know what's
stepping
crazy?
down?
I seen that like a few.
My mom sent it to me, so she's basically trying to tell me that I should apply to it, which I might.
Assistant director?
Yeah.
I don't think that's so are you asking like how I feel about it or why?
So one, why you feel about it, and two, why do you think it happened? Like, why do you think they're asking for an assistant director knowing Coach Morgan's still here? And I'm pretty sure he was the assistant director too.
Why are they asking? Here's the thing. I don't want to speculate too much because obviously it's a touchy thing because like Coach Morgan and us is like family, and I'm pretty sure that like Dean Jones and that's like a family thing or a familiar thing, right? But as far as I know, like I feel like Wabash the past couple years have been trying to reinvent the wheel and rebrand themselves. Now I don't know if they're trying to do that with the MXI as well. I don't know if they're trying to like make a different type of like or create some type of different outreach. But even still, like it's kind of weird that it's like the assistant director and not the director. Not that I wanted to be the director. I love Dean Jones, but it is kind of odd that it's the assistant director in particular. I don't know if Coach Morgan like pitched the idea. I don't know if like it was a thing of like him wanting to like move into other stuff. Because I know he's involved in like this pretty much like the committee in sports or whatever. But yeah, no, I don't know how to feel about it really. Yeah, maybe because it hasn't resonated with me all the way yet.
Would you take the job?
Not right now. No.
I think I would take it right now.
Right now?
Like as in but probably I don't know. It depends what the pay would be, but it wouldn't be like a final job for sure. But would I take it? Maybe.
I think
I might consider it.
Yeah, I mean for me, I think I would need to leave Wabash for a little bit to where I have more insight or like a different type of perspective or whatever. Well, with me having like this fresh perspective of just being or already being a student or whatever, and it's coming kind of like a little ripe into the role or whatever. I just don't feel like that would suit me very well. Now that's just me. I just feel like I just need to go out and get a little bit more of a perspective on other things, and then maybe come back and consider it. But not to say like I wouldn't take the role at all, but as of right now, probably not. Like I don't know. That's not a role I would want to take at like in my younger 20s, if that makes sense. Maybe I don't know, but yeah.
No, I'm interested, but I have other things that I would also like to do. I don't know. I feel like part of the draw to me about this job is I feel like it would be real flexible.
Mm-hmm.
So like I would just be here and have to be here from like during the weekdays and everything, but then I could like I wouldn't really have to do anything at home, have to necessarily take anything from my work to my house, because I know my dad has to do that a lot with his with him being a private banker. He has to take a lot of his loans and work on paperwork outside of what he really considers to be his work hours. I feel like I would have more free time to like do this podcast or write and do other things like that, because being an assistant director, I wouldn't really be the main one in charge, for one, but two, also the MXI is a student-ran organization, so I would just be there.
Yeah, I get it. get it. I would still love to have. Well, we're gonna have involvement. We're gonna be involved with MXI in some way, shape, or form, just because we're MXI alumnus. But at the same time, or alumni, because it's plural. But I just wouldn't take. I personally just wouldn't take the role right now, just because I feel like there's other stuff.
That's fair. I might. I'll probably apply though. We'll see.
Okay, so the first topic we're going to kind of touch on more of a contemporary topic, more of a disheartening topic. If for you guys that don't know, Dante Wright, another young African American male who was shot by a police officer unarmed, literally or close to a year from George Floyd being killed unarmed. And as of right now, I wouldn't say that. I think I was more upset about it today, or well, I was more upset about it a couple days ago, opposed to today. I don't know if it's because like it's not being thrown in my face a lot on social media. Not that that's an issue, because stuff like that needs publicity and needs to be mobilized, right? But I think just after really sitting with it, I wouldn't say that I'm numb to it, but it didn't hit me as hard as like the first time like the article came up. But what did make it worse was right after that I seen like the video of like the veteran. I forget where he was. I want to say Virginia. That was in Virginia. They got pulled over and was pepper sprayed because he wasn't quote unquote pretty much like listening to the officer or whatever. And that was disheartening as well, because it's like I personally have like family members that are part of the military, and these are people that serve in the country, right? Regardless of their skin complexion, like these are people that are serving the country, and for him to be treated that way is so disheartening and just terrible. But on to like Dante Wright, like I just think that 2020 was a terrible year, and the George Floyd case was such a huge deal, right? It was an event that made you feel as if like, the needle can be moved, right? Like there can be change, that there's change that can spark from this. And for something like this to happen like a year later, in the same state in Minnesota is kind of disheartening, and it kind of makes me feel like that same sense of hopelessness that I felt in 2020. But I don't know, like one of my professors told me that to live in the world is to live with continual optimism. And what she's pretty much saying is that like if you're going to live, then you kind of have to have that like that scope of optimism, right, to spark change, because without it, we're always going to be in an ongoing cycle. So I always try to keep that in mind, like when we come across stuff like this. I mean, there's always going to be times where we feel like, we're moving backwards or nothing's going to progress. But as long as we continue to try to push forward and keep a level of optimism, I think that something good could come out of this. But I don't know. As of right now, I'm still a little bit taken aback by this situation. Like just another young African American man killed unarmed, and I think it hits home for me because it's like the more I see stuff like this, the more I realize that could be me, or that could be a friend of mine, right? That could be in that position, right? That isn't doing anything wrong, that isn't, causing any harm to anyone, but his life is taken by somebody who has a badge, and I don't know. It's just. Yeah, you can take it away. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to ramble too much.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Because most of the time I do most of the talking. So, I mean, part of me isn't surprised at the verdict, because for Deontay Wright, they ruled it, they gave her second-degree manslaughter, which, do I wish it was something that was, like first-degree murder? Sure. But just knowing how the law is written and knowing what happened and what constitutes first-degree murder, I knew she wasn't going to be convicted of murder anyways. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, whether we believe it or not, we'll actually know. It's hard because it was an accident according to her, but it's just like, it's like, how do you make that mistake? Because I'm pretty sure they're on two different hips. Let me make sure. But most of the cops I see, at least, they have their pistol on one hip and then their taser on the other hip. So it's like, how do you, like, I think the mistake is unexcusable, but at the
Right.
end of the day, because it wasn't
And then
something.
my thing is like it goes to like why is the first resort is like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because even still, like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like why is the first resort like is to reach for like a weapon or whatever? Like, and well, I don't know the full situation. I just know that like, do you know why she even reached for like or quote unquote reached for a taser or?
Because he was resisting arrest. Resisting arrest. Same thing same thing they always claim.
But I guess that kind of goes back to like one of the things where we talked about like when it comes to policing, right? Like their job is to de-escalate situations, right? And in a particular in this particular regard, like the first thing that the first thing when it comes to like the first things you should do, it shouldn't be reaching for a weapon or reaching for like a firearm or like a taser gun or whatever. And I don't know, like I'm not here to question anyone's character or whatever, but like it's just stuff like this is like I don't know, like it's just too coincidental for me to take it as a mistake because it's just like no, like I don't feel like that's a mistake that can be made. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't feel like you know I don't know. Like I'm such at a loss of words. Like it's just so frustrating. But one thing I will say is that there's been plenty of outlets on social media of ways of people like us to reach out and like help because Dante Wright had like he left behind his girlfriend and his daughter, I believe, and they put out like a few sites that you can kind of donate money and stuff like that. So we'll probably post like the link in the description box under the video. But yeah, I don't know. Like when situations like this, and then along with like the video of like the veteran being handled in the way that he was handled, it's just like I don't know. And then on top of that, like we was going to talk about this the other episode, but the situation that happened with the Asian people near the store or whatever, like it's just it's oppression on so many people, on so many minorities, and it's just like I don't know. Like I think, and the thing is like I think my perspective is a lot different now because when we took these Black Studies courses or whatever, we kind of seen how like systematic racism and systemic racism came about, like what built it up or whatever, and how it's kind of ingrained in everyday society, right? Like when I was younger, I just thought that it was it was like a select amount of people that were racist that had these like did these particular actions, right? I just thought like racism worked in like an individualistic way, right? Opposed to like a systemic way. And now that I kind of see that like even people that aren't quote unquote or consider themselves racist are racist to a certain extent because of the systems they support, it kind of I don't know, it kind of makes me skeptical of a lot of people and a lot of things. So I don't know. But I always think back to the events that happened with George Floyd, right, at the age of 21, and then Trayvon Martin when I was like 14 or whatever, and how my responses were different. Obviously, it's going to be different because I was younger, but the way that like I interpret and understand those situations are completely different now because I have a completely different insight, and it's just kind of crazy how, yeah, I don't know, but
Every time this happens, I always go back to Mortal Man in that Tupac, like in that mock Tupac interview Kendrick did.
yeah, in the back end,
How he basically Tupac's just talking about, like, Kendrick asked like when, like, how do you continue to fight back when you feel like you've reached the point to where you can't fight back because you're like you've and Tupac just talks about how like you have to do it while you're young in this country, and it's up
Right.
to the young people to kind of lead these movements because the older people have been beaten down to the point where
They're just
they
trying to survive.
exactly. It reminds me of like what Professor Thomas was talking about 2 episodes ago when she was talking about how like black men had just been beaten up by the system so much that it's kind of become the job of black women to like lead these black liberation, black power movements now. And it's just, I mean, I remember hearing that line as a high school. I think that came out my sophomore year, so I was like 16, like 15, 16. And it's like being that young, you don't ever think you're gonna be tired of it or like let it break you or just ever get tired of fighting because that's, you're full of energy when you're at that age. You think everything, you think you can take on the world and win and everything. But not only with age, but I think what really like, I think the challenge is that as you become more aware of black history and what America has done to try to keep not only black people, but every type of people that's not white oppressed, you kind of realize and you start to sit back and you really go, damn, I see why all these people are getting tired because it's just a constant struggle. Like every generation goes through this. Every generation has a Rodney King or a Trayvon Martin or a George Floyd. And it's just like, I mean, it's a long cycle, but at the end of the day, I think like what's that Malcolm X quote where he's like, we're not forget what exactly he says, but it's something like we're not out like powered or like,
Oh, we're not.
but we're out organized.
Yeah, we're out
Yeah,
organized. Yeah, pretty much like the concept of we're not outnumbered. We're out
there it is.
organized. There we go. Yeah,
But
yeah.
I feel like people think we're outnumbered when really, if you look at it, and I think this is where that quote comes from, is that one is it's not just one minority in the same boat. Like we're all kind of lumped together in the same boat. It just looks like we're not all together in that boat because of the way America goes out of its way to just divide people. Because it's the same thing with capitalism, where I talk about how like that the I Am Athlete podcast, how
Right,
Chad
right,
Johnson
right.
was talking about how
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the owners have the power because they have all the money. When it's like no, really, and this is true in a capitalistic society, it's the middle class that have all the power. They're the ones that are responsible for creating the jobs and controlling the market. But the problem is they only have that power if they understand that they have that power by being united. And so if you're not united, you can't do anything. And so like it's the same reason why these big corporations try to keep people from building unions because unions are something
Right.
that threaten their money
Absolutely,
and their power.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
like it's the same concept. We're not together. We're not united and we're not organized anymore. And that's mainly because especially in these black power movements, you just see the leaders getting taken out, like from the Fred Hamptons to the Malcolm X's to the Martin Luther Kings, and it's like after a while, after a while, our movements have evolved to where we don't just have like one face of maybe one part of the movement. We don't have like one signature leader. But the problem with that is it's a lot harder to be organized because it's not like you don't have necessarily one cohesive vision.
Right.
And then also now the government has more names and more people that they can keep tabs on now. They have more people that they can try to take out now. And it's just
Right.
like
And then
tiring.
I can just couple that with the idea of just within the black community, right? I feel like we still kind of battle like our own internal struggles when it comes to that the crabs in a bucket mentality, right? Like there's people that are focused on, trying to create better circumstances for, people that look like us, right? Then there's other people that just focused on prospering in a world that really isn't meant for them. And we were kind of talking about like the top 1%, right? And how like a lot of people within the black community try to chase that. But the thing is that like chasing that really like it really doesn't change anything for you, right? Like regardless of how much money you have, it's still like you still will be subjugated in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know, like I one thing that me and you both have spoken about is the idea of racism and capitalism kind of being intertwined with one another. And in order for you to kind of combat racism, you kind of have to combat capitalism as well. And quite honestly, some black people don't want to combat capitalism, especially the ones that are prospering from it. Like we talked a lot about like the rappers that make a bunch of money because, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. Like it's a really sticky situation because on one hand, I do believe that a lot of the issues that we face are external, right? Like there are a lot of stuff that affects us, but I do think there's ways of which that we can potentially like take ownership and like create changes and spark a change as well. And I feel like before we can even like try to mobilize ourselves, we still have to figure out the things that are taking us apart or splitting us apart. Right? We already know there's external things that are already doing that, but there's some of the tendencies that we have ourselves that kind of like keep us from uniting. So I don't know. But when you say stuff like that, that comes off as like, I don't know how to explain it, Uncle Tom-ish or whatever. But like I genuinely feel as if that like there are certain tendencies that we have that kind of keep us from uniting. And when we say taking ownership of what we do or whatever, that can come off as excusing, the oppressors, which I would never do. But I think there has to be a mix of understanding what is going on and what is affecting us, but also understanding that what we're doing is perpetuating the problems that we have. So, but you want to go on to something lighter, or anything else? Anything else to say?
I mean, really, it's just I think that's what the trap and the danger of the American dream is because, like I was talking about this in my parable class. We were talking about how, at least I was stating how, like when you think the American dream originally, it was like sort of just do it well enough so that your family doesn't struggle to live. You get the white picket fence. You live in a nice neighborhood. And you have a wife and kids that you're able to support. You're not necessarily buying like super luxurious things or jewelry or everything like that. Whereas now today, like the American dream has kind of evolved to want to be billionaires and have all this money and basically live lifestyles like rappers do or like the top 1%, the businessmen do. And it's a trap because at the end of the day, it's that same thinking that keeps us down, that keeps everybody in the middle class and everything kind of divided because it's basically teaching people, you have to be for yourself before others. And while I believe that to the extent of making sure that your problems are solved and that, your head is clear before you try to solve other people's problems, like you help yourself with problems you may have before you try to help other people that are in similar predicaments. It also can't be, once I've helped myself, I can't just keep going and forget about everybody. You have to it's the same thing Dr. Umar talked about, being able to we have to judge progress by the collective and not just, Kanye's a billionaire,
Right.
Jay-Z's a billionaire,
Right.
we're making progress, we have all these black millionaires when nothing has really changed. It's just, that's why, like, I don't know. Like we talk about in the house, we talk a lot about wanting to have a good job that pays a lot of money and wanting to get all these clothes and drip. But at the same time, it's like those are the same things that as a collective and as black people, as Hispanic people, as Japanese Americans, Chinese Americans, whatever you come from, if you're not a white American, those are the same things that kind of keep us down is the fact that we keep feeding into this system. And a lot of people think that we can beat capitalism with black capitalism when you can't, because at the end of the day, it's still capitalism. And in this country, it's still built to be taking advantage. You're still taking advantage of black people at the end of the day, whether that's taking away opportunities from their neighborhoods or using using the people who they end up locking up in prisons as prison laborers. So it's just, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess people just really have to realize that, it's really the top 1% that's the enemy. It's not necessarily just, I understand like white supremacy is a problem, but I feel like the big thing with white supremacy is that they buy into the promise that, they'll be able to get to where the 1% is or like share a part of what the 1% has in America because, they're buying into this system that empowers those people. And it's also out of ignorance because they don't know any better. They don't understand that the same system that they're trying to feed off and feed into is the exact same system that actually keeps them financially and economic. I mean that's the same thing, but it keeps them
But
exactly where they are
and then
too.
if you want to take the route of saying that like white supremacy enables them to have a leg up on all the other minorities because it's not like they got the same money as that 1%, but what they do have are a set of
Yeah,
privileges
that's
that
the
we don't
point though.
have.
That's the point.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
it's to promise them privileges and promise them opportunities and give very few of them those same opportunities.
Right.
Which I think is funny that you have all these poor white people that voted for Trump and then he didn't really do anything for them, but they still love him because at the end of the day they've bought into that idea of white supremacy and you know, I feel like they're a lot more worried about how the race as a whole is doing compared
Right.
to how a single person is doing. I've always got that. Like I've always got that sense that, especially in this country, that white people are just way more, as a collective, just way more not necessarily way more organized and way more together, way more united than we are. And that's just how it is, and that's just how it's going to be until we can come to an understanding, come together, and just be like, you know what, we can't keep doing this to ourselves. So like it goes back to how you were talking about how like we have a lot of external problems, but the biggest problem is the fact that we're not united or organized, and that's something that even though there's outside pressures and outside factors trying to drive that and keep us divided, it's up to us to overcome those and unite. And so it just I don't know. I kind of went on a tangent, but
Yeah. No.
we can move on to the next topic if you want.
Yeah, we're gonna go on to something lighter. I mean, it's still gonna kind of incorporate like a little bit of politics because it's something politicized a bit. But today marks the 4-year anniversary of Kendrick Lamar's Damn album. Now, if you're not familiar with this project, it's one of Kendrick Lamar's most commercially successful
4 years,
projects.
god damn.
He won a Pulitzer Prize from it. He won many Grammys from it. Like this was like him reinventing, you know, himself once again to release his fourth album, fifth if you want to consider Section 80 an album. Well, no, it's still fourth. Yeah, it's still fourth. But yeah, his fourth album. So before we get into like the deep crevices of, hopefully I used that word right. Before we get into the whole thing or whatever, I just wanted to ask, like, what's the first thing you think of when it comes to the Damn album?
Just how I was playing it consistently for like that was the only thing I was listening to for the first probably 3 months it came out because it came out
So
in April. From like April to June, yeah, that was like the
Yeah.
only thing I was listening to.
Yeah, yeah,
And definitely enjoyed my favorite song on there is definitely Fear, but that's because I've always been somebody that enjoys rap songs that tell a story because I feel like those take the most work because
So it's between Fear and Duckworth then.
yeah, although I like DNA too, but Fear is my favorite. Is my favorite, like by far. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
And like I said, I like songs that tell stories because one, I feel like it's a lot harder to not only give people bars but also tell a story around it. But I enjoy listening to stories and I also enjoy telling stories. So it's just something that I personally like. And then together, I like the instrumental. With I like that's what I really like about Kendrick's music is a lot of his instrumentals include live instrumentation. So you got the bass in there. You got like some ladies singing. I think it's a guitar in there. That's what it is. If I could smoke fear away, I roll that motherfucker up, and then I take 2 puffs. I'm high now. Ooh, I'm high now. Ooh, I'm high now. I'm high now. Life's a bitch, put them pennies to the side now.
Yeah, I'll let you get that off. But no, the first thing I think of when I think of this album was I tried to go in not judging it off the first listen because that's the same thing I did with To Pimp a Butterfly, and I felt like I prematurely like gave it like I prematurely judged it without fully digesting it first because that's such a dense album, and I kind of wanted to treat this album the same. Like I wanted to give it, well, not the same. I wanted to do something different and kind of give it a bunch of listens before I even like formulate an opinion about it, because this was around the time when same day reviews were coming out. Like people were reviewing it on the same day, hours after it was been released and stuff like that. And you know, a lot of people would run to Twitter after they heard their first listen and either trash it or praise it as one of the best. And I just didn't want to, you know, feed into that. So no, I the first thing I thought of was just how amazing it is that he can find a way to like reinvent himself, right? After all this time that he's been in the game, and after all the you know, magnificent work he's released over the years, and how he was able to commercialize his sound but still rap really good. And I feel like he kind of shows that like you can do both. Like it doesn't have to be one or the other. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. Or yeah, right. So I just really, really enjoyed the fact that like he didn't necessarily make a full-on conceptual album, even though there's some concepts in there and some underlying themes, but he decided to rap what he wanted to rap over, do it really well, still give you some storytelling, still give you some radio hits, you know, make a versatile album. And yeah, that's the first thing I really think of, is just like how versatile the album was. The fact that he had Rihanna on the song, it had her rapping and she sounded really good. Not to say that Rihanna doesn't sound really good, but in terms of like her rapping with Kendrick, like I just thought that was a highlight of the album in itself, because it's like it shows his range as an artist, right? He's not just a conscious rapper. He's a person that can make commercially accessible music, but he can do it in a way that's refreshing. So yeah, that's the first thing I think of when I think of Damn, in particular. Just him showcasing his versatility as a rapper, and his longevity as a rapper as well. He's the reason why like rappers, certain rappers that are deemed as like one of the more mainstream lyrical rappers can, you know, take 3 years off, take 4 years off, and not make music and come back and release something. Because when you take your craft as serious as he does, you can afford to do that. Now, there's certain rappers or whatever that don't have that luxury, because one, they already oversaturated themselves, and they already created the standard of they're going to release every year, to the point where like now their fans are expecting them to release every year or whatever. And not to say that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, obviously, you do what you do as an artist, but I just think that there's something, I don't know, I just think there's something special about, you know, letting the album sit for a while, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, or whatever, letting it sit for a while and anticipating that next release and anticipating that next step. Because that's where you get like that's how you're able to get albums that don't sound the same. Is when like an artist take his time, go through stuff, pretty much leave music alone for a couple years, go back to music and give you a fresh set of new ideas, a fresh set of a perspective or whatever that wasn't there the last time you heard them. You know, so but yeah, no, that's what I think of. So what are your, in terms of subject matter, right? Because when we touch on Kendrick, right, like we can talk about bars all day, but what really like separates him from like his peers is just some of the subject matter he touches on, how like some of it is universal, some of it is personal. But every time I like listen to a Kendrick album, there's always something thought provoking that like sits with me for a very long time. And I just wanted to ask, since we're like people that are like really, really enjoy Black studies and really, really enjoy history, right, and stuff like that, like and pretty much like contemporary topics and stuff like that, like what were some of the themes or some of the topics that, you know, really struck you in this album?
And Damn, I think DNA is cool because he's talking about like all the things that he feels like going to Black people's DNA, but also maybe like some stereotypes. Mm-hmm. Like he talks about cocaine, he talks about war being in DNA because, you know, people assume Black people are violent. You have the crack epidemic that really broke out in Black communities. But he also talks about royalty because, you know, you have people like the kings and the pharaohs from Egypt and all these other African kingdoms like Ghana that had like all these riches that Europe was really, if we're going to be honest, jealous of. But I like that. I definitely like Fear because it's the different stages of fear like that he felt in his life. So as a little kid, which I mean, I feel like this is messed up and it shouldn't be like this. But a lot of parents, um, especially a lot of black parents, I'll say that for sure, definitely acquaint. Damn, I don't know why I'm taking so
I know
many
what you're,
pauses.
but
I'm sorry,
I
but
know
I
what
know
you're
what I'm
trying
gonna
to get
say.
to. Yeah.
Like how they equate fear with respect. So it's like, he's talking about how his mom is trying to get him to fear him, and he might have he does have a fear of his mom, and how like the fear is basically trying to be in a placeholder for respect. Like it's supposed to be the same thing. And so like it just reminds me of like in the black community a lot of the times we're taught that fear is respect. And so like a lot of parents try to instill fear into their children so that their children fear them to an extent to where it's enough to where they respect them just because that's how like the slave master might have done it and the overseers might have done it. But I think that's messed up because fear and respect don't equal each other. And you can respect somebody without fearing something. And I feel like that's a major problem in the black community, period. Like a lot of like I remember when COVID first broke out and I was talking to Miles, I was talking about how like I didn't fear getting it because I was reading the statistics and I was understanding that if I were to get it, I would be fine, I would be okay. But in that same sense, I still like respected it to the term. It's like I'm still gonna do everything I need to so that I don't get it. It's just that I don't necessarily fear it. And he was scared. Like he was. I mean, of course it did first come out, but he was kind of afraid of getting it. And like to him, I guess it must have seemed like I didn't necessarily respect it.
Right.
And it also reminds me of a conversation my dad was having with two of our families are close friends. It's this girl I grew up with, and like her parents had come back to visit the dad's mom, so her grandma, and they were talking about like COVID and everything. He was giving them facts and everything, and like just talking about how like even though he's of higher risk because he has type 2 diabetes, he doesn't really suffer from his type 2 as much because he's been able to get it under control and keep all those factors under control. But he was talking about how he doesn't necessarily fear getting it, but he understands that he's still going to do what he needs to do. And they were like giving him crazy looks. And, one of them is a firefighter. So he was talking about how like he sees it out on like real life and he's seen all these people die. And so he's scared of it. And so, he's just equating the fact that, my dad isn't scared of it, so he must not respect it when that's not true. Right. And I feel like that's how a lot of black people equate respect is with fear. If you don't fear something, then you don't respect it. Whereas that's not the case. Like you don't have to fear anything to respect it. I can say this now, I don't fear either of my parents. Maybe as when I was like 12, yeah, I definitely was a little scared of my mom and my dad, but like now I don't fear them, but do I still respect them? Yes, I have the utmost respect for my parents, but I don't fear them because there's no need to fear them because at the end of the day, I understand that they love me and that they have their my best interests in their heart, and they understand that I love them and that if there's any disrespect, it's not on purpose, and two, it's usually like because it comes from a boiling point because they understand they may have done something that set me off or I may have felt a little disrespected at that time. So I feel like I can definitely talk to my parents a little bit more because like again, they understand that you don't have to have fear with respect because we talk about this all the time.
Right. So you mentioned fear. You mentioned DNA. Is there another song or another theme that you want to touch on in terms of like a?
Just be humble.
Hey, a fun fact. Humble was actually my theme for my when I went to prom.
I feel like that's bad. I feel like that song's definitely addressed to what's his name, Big Sean. I feel like that in the Heart Part 4 a little bit.
I'm about to say they talked and they said that Big Sean put on this song that like they had a discussion and like the whole like beef thing was kind of fabricated or whatever. So I guess it wasn't really.
I like.
But
I like
rappers
that
talking
storyline.
subliminals a lot, so yeah.
My fans can't wait for me to son your punk ass.
Franco just entered the building. What's up? They can't hear you.
Oh, you ugly as hell.
They can't hear you.
They might have heard that one.
But yeah. Go ahead and say something, Franco. I know you want to say something.
What's good, fellas? 670 Coke Block.
I don't know what that is, but hopefully it's not
He's
bad.
out.
Yeah, what time you picking me up?
I can take you at 8. I can take you at 8, yeah. I can take you at 8. I'll probably be up at around 8. So leave at like 8:10.
Yeah, we're gonna have to cut this part out. We're gonna keep his whatchamacallit in there, but we're gonna have to cut the rest.
Because it's quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that? Come on, bro.
Why are you touching his chest, bro? Come on.
Alright.
All right, bro.
But for me, I don't think that the stuff was I don't think it was directed towards. But then again, rappers are subliminal all the time. Like if you look at Jay-Z, you know how many subliminals Jay-Z has given in his time as a rapper. Like, yeah, but
Keep going. I'm just rapping to myself.
No, you good. Nah, but for me, honestly, when I think of some of the themes of some of the songs that stick with me, I think of like the song "Lust" or whatever that kind of talks about like over glorifying like these like things or whatever, whether it's sex, whether it's jewelry, whether it's clout.
I think that's a
whatever.
big thing because lust is like I tell people all the time. Lust is something that's more than just sex.
Right. Yeah.
Like you can have lust outside of you can have lust for like money.
Right.
You can have lust for nice things. Like lust is something that exists outside of sex too.
Yeah. Nah, and it's a danger when you let it consume you because it takes away from what life is supposed to be about.
Way too hot to simmer down. Might as well overheat.
Yeah, nah, that song for sure. And I also think of Triple X, which kind of talks about like the hypocrisy of America.
I've always thought it was kind of more directed at the hypocrisy of like
people. I think
maybe
he was
like
addressing
celebrities.
I think he was addressing Geraldo again because he was talking about remember in Yeah, where he was talking about Geraldo or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think he was addressing him again, kind of saying like the hypocrisy of you like putting that stereotype on hip hop, right? And saying that like it damages the people when it actually kind of liberates the people. And the same thing that you say is damaging is stuff that
is that the same dude he put in DNA? You know how like when the beat switches,
this is why I say that hip hop has done more
Which
damage
is so,
to black people. Yeah.
So, fucking idiot.
Yeah, but I think he was addressing Geraldo again.
Oh no, I always thought it was more of a take on how like people might say, hey, let's talk about gun control because like that's what he says, like try to put on this good face, but while he's talking to his friend, he's telling if I were you, right. I would go out and kill this person.
But since he's like a figure of a different stature, he
has to put on this different face.
Yeah.
No. I don't know. I've always thought that song was interesting. I would like if we could talk to him and let's say he was like sitting right here with us and I could ask him about 3 songs, I think I would ask him about Triple X, Sing About Me, and then
I would also ask about
probably Control.
I would also want to tap in with him about there's a lot of stuff I want to tap in with him about like Tip of a Butterfly in terms of like his when he made Blacker the Blacker the Berry.
Damn, I forgot all about that.
I would also want to talk to him about like
For Sale? Yeah, the one where he's talking about Lucy. I love that song.
I would also want him to talk about how much $1 costs, just his relationship with God or whatever, and just the idea of like being considered a prophet in a metaphorical sense or whatever in the rap industry, right? But what that means in like an everyday life. I would love for him to talk about that too, and I also love him. There's a couple songs of Section 80 that I would love for him to touch on, like especially Brenda's song that kind of talks about like
Keisha's song.
Keisha's song, but it was
I know what it is.
Yeah. But like he pretty much was playing off of Brenda's Got a Baby or whatever.
Oh yeah, I would love to ask him about that too because
it's so relevant to now in terms of like liberating and uplifting the black woman or whatever. And I would just want to see like
Well, I would like him to ask him about that song because literally in Sing About Me, he's talking like there's literally a verse dedicated to who
people
we
that
assume,
thought that like
not only people but like basically who like in the song at least we can assume is Keisha's like maybe older sister. That's what I assume
that's going
her
through
to
the
be.
same life,
right? And she's talking about how Like she even references how the song resembles Brenda's Got Her Baby.
Right.
But she's talking about how like she doesn't necessarily like that you just put her like business in her life and what
Right.
happened to her on blast.
And kind of
because-
judging it.
Right. Even though I don't really feel like he was necessarily judging it, he was just reflecting on it and is sitting there and it's like, you know, this could be my sister. Because I think if I'm not mistaken, wasn't his sister also out in the streets? I could be.
No.
It could be
so
wrong.
what happened was when he played this song.
I know he
for
sat
him.
his sister down and played.
But
the
no.
song,
What
yes.
happened was she ended up getting pregnant at a young age or whatever, and that's why he was beating himself up on the "You" song or whatever because he kind of brought that up again.
Yeah.
About how like he made a song about this, played it for her, and somehow, some way, like you know, right. So yeah. But no, but like also
I would love that. Damn, I might as well just ask this man about his whole discography. To be honest,
right. No, because he is range, man. Subject matter is so crazy.
Loving you is complicated. Loving you is complicated.
So I said Triple X. I said Lust. Another song that I think I would really want him, that really stuck with me too.
We're at 46 minutes, just so you know.
Yeah, I'm rapping. We only got like one more topic. But another song that like really stuck with me as well, I think, is Pride. Even though it's pretty much like the actual lyrics is the antithesis of Pride, and Humble is the antithesis of the lyrics to that song. So I like how cool that is. But now I'm gonna talk about Pride just because I do feel like it's a paradox to like be someone of a higher stature and have pride in your work, but also not be too prideful to the point where like you're your own like demise, right? And I would like, you can tell that like he kind of struggles with. Well, I wouldn't say struggles because I think he handles it pretty well, but I think he has like internal struggles with having this higher stature and having these expectations, right? And kind of meeting them, right? But also feeling as if like, you know, he shouldn't be put on that pedestal.
That's definitely.
And you talked a lot about like not heralding like rappers, celebrities
Right.
as these people that are supposed to be like
But
leaders.
I feel like he could be one that's almost heralded because of one, what he talks about, but two, he's also put himself in grass
Right,
movements
exactly.
in South Africa. And so like that's like you and Mortal Man, I think touch on that and his feeling of, you know, like with you, he's basically questioning himself saying, you know, I'm not a leader, you know, I don't see why people see me as a leader, you know, even though he like now looking back, he understands, you know, he left Compton, but looking back, which he touches on in the song Mama, he realizes that what's best for like his city and the environment that he grew up in is for him to go back home and start
it's
investing
also a
in
double,
that community.
I'm about to say, but it's also a double entendre. Home is in Compton and home is in Africa.
Exactly.
Which is
Yeah.
really, really
That's what I'm saying.
important. Which
Right.
is really, really important.
Which is also why he ended up going to South Africa. You know, he went to the Mandela cell, I'm pretty sure. But like he then also talks about how like it's so easy for people to turn on the people who they look up to and who are celebrities because one thing they might do goes wrong. So like I don't know. So like let's just say like, oh, you know, I wasn't gonna give an example. I know what I was gonna say. So like he's basically just asking, you know, if something goes wrong, are you still gonna be a fan? Are you still gonna be with me? Are you gonna, you know, ride the storm out with me, or are you just gonna jump ship and just abandon ship and just leave me because I messed up?
Because they kind of did that. Because let's be real, when Blacker the Berry first came out, and a lot of people had mixed feelings about it because a lot of people felt like, you know, he was perpetuating certain stereotypes when he said, like he had a couple lines talking about like pretty much that like, you know, I'm angry and like I have a big nose and like all this other stuff, which is pretty much a critique. But if like for everyday listener, they're not gonna know like the idea of like double meanings and stuff like that or whatever. But it's more of a critique on the stereotypes that are placed on black people opposed to like it being an actual play on, you know what I'm saying? Like, but yeah, no, there's been a couple of times where like he's been under fire, and you know, and he's right. Like it doesn't take much for people to turn on you. You know what I'm saying? So, But yeah, that is an important thing. No, but honestly, in closing it out, I just think that like Damn is another album where he kind of shows you that you can rap really well, you can have great production, but you can also make work that is meaningful and that can stand the test of time. Because it doesn't feel like 4 years. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. Like it doesn't feel like 4 years because I still listen to it. I still get something new out of it every time I listen to it. And it's music like that that kind of like draws me to hip hop because like I've always said this. There's something in hip hop that can't be done in other genres. You know what I'm saying? Like or certain genres or whatever. And yeah,
No, you can
but,
say other genres too.
yeah, but yeah. So I don't know, but yeah, I love the album. If I was to rank it in discography, that would be because I don't want to do that because I don't want to feel like
I got it at 3.
I'm about to say I don't want to feel like I'm like trying to devalue the album or whatever, but it's still a great album. And I still think it deserves the praise that it gets. I just kind of wish that the Grammy that this got was the Grammy that Good Kid, Mad City should have got. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, like, can't cry over spilled milk. So
Just to close, I remember watching this interview Kendrick did. I forget exactly who the person was.
Was it on? It might have been on because he only
It wasn't Breakfast Club. No,
was it Big Boy?
I forget, but it's like dude's kind of bald.
Big
his
Boy.
head
It was
shiny.
Big- it
That's
was
probably
Big
what
Boy.
it was.
It was
But
Big
like
Boy.
he was basically like I think this was after Damn came out, and he was like ranking his discography.
Yeah.
And I think he had Damn at 1 and Good Kid, Mad City 2, and like To Pimp a Butterfly at like 3, which really that shocked me.
You want to know why? Because like
He views Damn as like a fusion
I
of
think-
Good Kid, Mad City, and To Pimp a
Exactly.
Butterfly, which I understand why that's number 1.
that, and I also think that like him and the label too, because like if like people forget that he's also part of a label like TDE, like they understand that like they already built their cult following through like the work that they put out. Right now, it's about gaining more of a mass appeal. Hence the reason why people in the label are shooting for more commercial music. Like Schoolboy Q's last album, Crash Talk or whatever. Not my favorite album, but it's most definitely one of his most like commercially accessible albums or whatever. So I think he was saying that in the vein of like him understanding that like although I'm making great work, like having a mass appeal matters just as much as well. And I feel like that's probably why he ranked Damn so high because he Damn like garnered the most like I don't know like I feel like Damn just was one of his most like commercially.
I was gonna
like,
say
accessible.
yes, but I was gonna say because I thought you were gonna say like one of his most
And he
critically
also
acclaimed,
said
which it is. But the
Technically.
thing is, his most critically acclaimed album, at least if you go to like Metacritic,
yeah.
is To Pimp a Butterfly, and
Right.
that's like the highest. I think that might be. It's definitely the highest rated hip hop album, but that might be like the highest rated album on Metacritic. Period.
But the thing about Metacritic, and this is we have to talk about
At
this
least
on
the
another
critic
episode.
score
We have
is.
to talk about this on another episode because like artists, black artists in particular, really predicate the value of their work based off of like our demographic,
Right,
opposed to
exactly.
like the critics.
Yeah.
They can get like for instance, Schoolboy Q said that like, yeah, I made Blank Face and Metacritic gave me a good score, but the hood wasn't rocking with it. Like that's what I'm
That's
saying.
what he cares
So,
about, yeah.
Yes, like I can see like, and then you have to pay attention to the tone that he was when he was talking about Simple Butterfly. He said, "Great project, a special project to me, but I just don't feel like it connected to the masses how it was supposed to." He said something similar to that regard. So
Right.
you could tell he really felt like he put his all into that album, but he just doesn't feel like it connected with, which I kind of see because I don't feel like that many people in the black community really love to put Butterfly like that. It's usually Good Kid, Mad City, and it's usually like Damn or Section 80 that they talk about, which is kind of sad because it's like, but I get why he went that route.
Pimp a Butterfly is just. I think that's. If I'm making like a short list of like maybe the top 3 greatest hip hop albums that I've heard, Damn would be. No, I said Damn. To Pimp a Butterfly would definitely be number 1. And then I think I'll just name 2 more. Like I said, I think I would put My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy on there, and it's just because like one like since Kanye put so much time into it, and me having been a band kid and having to learn how to listen to every instrument that's in the band while I'm playing to kind of fit in and make sure that you can hear my line, but it's not overbearing when it should be more like sort of
Right.
in the crowd.
Right.
Like listen to every beat on that and being able to hear all the moving parts that went into it is just like that's a masterpiece to me, and that's the beauty of it. Like all of the lights has so many, just from voices to instruments, it's so many moving parts in that song for it all to come together like that and sound that amazing. I love that.
But yeah, but like as I was talking about, like that's another point. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, right, is probably one of the most critically acclaimed albums, but the streets wasn't, that heavy on it. And
love
that's
that
what I'm
album.
saying. Like now it's a theme of like people still care about critics to a certain extent. Don't get me wrong, but these hip hop artists now are more focused on like their general
How we feel
public,
about it, yeah.
right? Like what's the saying now? Being platinum in the streets, like that is like pretty much the motto now. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's why he ranked his albums that way, because he knew that like although it was probably his best work, technically, it just didn't have that connection that he wanted or thought, you know. But at the same time, I feel like he kind of knew that was going to happen though. But hey.
Yeah.
All right.
Next topic was this. That was what, topic 2?
I mean, technically 3 because you talked about the spot.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we're on our 4th topic then.
Yeah, so this is more this is straight. Well, I wouldn't say straight off the dome, but like this is just a random topic. So this month pertains to financial literacy. This is the month of financial literacy. Something of which that we're both trying to figure out as young black men in college, right? I opened up my first credit card account or credit account a year ago. So it'll be a year since I've had a credit card, managing it, taking care of my credit or whatever, building up my credit or whatever. And it just had me thinking that like, where does my money go? You know what I'm saying? Like I be thinking that like sometimes like, I'm not a reckless spender, but there are times where like I will spend money, but like to stuff that don't matter, right? We were just talking about how like, in order to prosper, right, we can't buy into like buying stuff that we deem as like, something that you need when you really don't. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to ask you, and I'm gonna tap in right after you. What things do you think you spend your money on the most that you probably shouldn't?
Shoes and video games. Easy ass question.
Easy.
Without a doubt. And I think it's because like I've always enjoyed the game. Like y'all will tease me saying I can't play the game, like I can't live without playing the game. But nowadays I don't necessarily play the game because I enjoy like playing it so much. I play it more because oftentimes that's the only way I can like really interact with the friends that I grew up and went to high school with, because I'm in college and they're all at home, so they can easily link up, but it's not as easy for me to link up since I'm in school. And so like that's always there, and since they're always online, that's always the place where I can go and I can talk to them. So like I don't necessarily have to be playing a game. I can just hop on if I want to talk to them. But also playing a video game with a group of friends is something that's enjoyable to me, that I really enjoy, and it's a great bonding experience. And so that's really why I like playing the game, is because my oldest male friend and my best male friend, his name is Dorian Scott. We were like, I've known him since I was in elementary school, but we didn't really become friends till like the 8th grade, and that really happened because we really started getting close because we started playing the game together. And so like that's why I will always cherish like the video game, and that's probably why I put so much money into it, because it's something like I really enjoy, because it can kind of take me outside of the things that I can't control in life. Because
Right.
I might not be doing so well in life right now, but I know that like any day of the week I can be. I'm a dog at Call of Duty, so I can just if I have to go and demolish somebody in Call of Duty, I can easily do that.
Right.
But yeah. But then shoes,
I'm about to say,
I feel like a lot of people can relate to this.
So, when did you start getting into shoes for real? Because I know a lot of people like can't kick the habit of buying shoes because they've been like into shoes since they were kids. But then I know people that just are into shoes just because like, they're really really hell bent on having the best fashion.
I don't know. I just enjoy like looking at a nice pair of shoes. And like I could definitely buy more shoes and have a lot more shoes than what I have, but I still spend a lot of money on shoes. But for me, I first started getting into shoes probably around like 8th grade, going into freshman year of high school. And like growing up, my mom would buy like we would get one pair of shoes for school, and then if like we would have a pair of shoes that was like that were play shoes meant to play with outside. But my mom would always get those shoes from like Walmart because they were cheap, and she knew we were gonna tear up any shoe anyway, so she would get those. And then that way, if like we tore through that shoe real fast, it's only like maybe $10-$15 to replace it. So she used to do that, and then through middle school again, I would always get like maybe one or two pairs of shoes. I think the first time I had like multiple pairs of shoes I could wear to school was probably my 7th grade year, and that's really only no, it was my 8th grade year, and that's because I had two pairs of Converse, and it was like the high top all black Chuck Taylors, and then I had the low top white like black and white original
I've never
boys.
had a pair of Chuck Taylors.
Oh,
Ever.
bro, I was wearing them back in the phase where people used to wear like the Chuck Taylors and then put like elite socks on. Oh my god, I was one of those that would wear the Chucks and the elite socks.
I never wore Chuck. Like I'm not a shoe person at all, really. So whatever shoes my mom bought, that's what I was rocking, and they were my all-purpose.
That's how I
shoes.
used to be. Yeah, so like, I remember in like, I want to say like 2nd grade. No, it was like it was like 2nd grade. I think it was like a pair of like Nike skateboarder shoes. They weren't like the
Skateboarder
SB
shoes?
Dunks. They weren't
Okay.
SB Dunks, but they were like a notch down up from them, I guess. But the point is, like, the reason why, like, I would suggest to you getting something like a pair of Blazers or maybe like a pair of Vans or something like that is because skateboard shoes are real, like, durable. Because at the end of the day, skating is something that really like tears shoes up, and so those shoes are literally meant to survive a huge ass beating. So like, if you're gonna get a pair of shoes, Malcolm, I have like I'm on the Go app all the time, and there's this pair of basically Blazers that are like white, all white, and then they have like black Nike signs that are like $89, and those will last you a long ass time. Like I have, my teal pair of Vans.
Yeah.
I've had those since I was a sophomore here, and they don't even look really that beat up. But I've put a lot of mileage on those. I've worn those a lot, and so like the more like I understand, like the more I buy shoes, the more I understand like just how important it is to want to take good care of them, but two, to make sure that you buy shoes that are of good quality that will last you. Because you've seen my blue and pink Huaraches, right?
Yeah.
I've had those since I was like a junior in high school, and that's really just because one, Huaraches are like, as long as you're not using them to work out and you're just wearing them casually, Huaraches are actually pretty durable. But two is also because I've taken such good care of those shoes because those were my favorite shoes at some point in time that I try not to beat them up, try not to wear them as much. And so it really just comes down to being able to take care of your shoe. But yeah, I always, to me, shoes are what make an outfit, if that makes sense. So like you could have on
Not a shirt.
bro, shut up.
I don't
Like you
know.
could, I mean, it's to me you could have on like an okay shirt and like some baggy ass jeans, but if your shoes are like some fire ass shoes, so let's say you walk into a club and you're wearing like this plain ass white tee, you could be wearing like some boot cut jeans, but then you got some like Jordan ones on, so we'll say it's like some bread toe ones. There might be set.
I'm about to say you in a game.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody's like, ooh, you know what I'm saying? And like, I don't know. I've always enjoyed a nice pair of shoes. Yeah. That's really what it comes down to.
For me, when I think, because I really have to think hard about this, most of my money really goes towards food and like. And
I was gonna say it, but I didn't want to say it.
It really is food, just because like I don't really need much, honestly. Like I play games, but like I don't play that often, Yeah, like it really goes to like food, honestly. Like being here at Wabash or whatever, I stopped eating I stopped eating the residential food here because it's not good. I usually go to the grocery store and like buy my own food or whatever, like with my own money or whatever. So most of my money goes to like the groceries. I eat out a lot too, which I've gotten better at just because like I've been trying to take care of my body and eat healthier or whatever and like make my own food. But I used to eat out a lot. Freshman year, I probably ordered a pizza like 3 times a week, or like 3 to 4 times a week. Just because the food was terrible here, but I still ate here from time to time, but still. But yeah, I spend a lot of money on food, honestly. Either food or like I do spend a good deal of. I used to spend a good deal of money on battle rap because there was a time period before they started doing like free events or whatever. There's a time period that pay per view would cost like $30, $40, and this was around the time that battle rap was starting to become more of like like they were starting to have more frequent events. So they used to have like an event once a month or once every couple months, and I used to spend $50 every. And mind you, like our paychecks for Wise are like $100 every 2 weeks or whatever. I used to spend that $50 like it was nothing, and I used to make that other 50 stretch for however long I could, when it came to food and all my other stuff that I needed. But most of now looking at it, I think I do a better job at saving money, and kind of because I have to, because I'm saving up for an apartment. I'm trying to save up for other stuff. And now I'm trying to get into the investing thing because I actually downloaded the Acorns app to kind of like help me with investing because initially I didn't want to get involved in investing just because I didn't know how to, and that's kind of the thing that I try to get myself out of doing is being hesitant to do something because I don't know how to, instead of just trying to go in and figure it out. But now I think I actually do a better job of handling my money and stuff like that, and focusing on like financial literacy, which is important to me now because I kind of understand that, after like I graduate from college, like there's gonna be even more of a responsibility to take care of my money in a better way, right? Especially if I'm gonna be living in an apartment, pretty much living by myself or living in my own place. Like it's gonna be very important for me to know how to like handle my money properly. So right now, I got like the Acorns app for investment. I got like a Experian app that kind of talks about my credit score and like all the other stuff that can boost it or that can lower it or whatever. Obviously got my Chase account and my Discovery account or whatever. But I also got a Truebill account, and what the Truebill account does for me is a shameless plug. Well, not really a shameless plug because they don't do nothing for me, but what the Truebill thing does, it takes a monthly tracker of how much money I spend in that particular month, and it does a breakdown of like a weekly what I spend on the week or whatever, and it also shows the distribution of the money and where it goes or whatever, and it shows like what areas I'm spending my money the most and whatnot. So now I have like now like going into it, like I'll have a focal point of like looking at particular areas and like saying, okay, I spend a little bit too much in this department, and maybe I could like take that money and place it somewhere else to um, where it's actually like beneficial to me. But yeah, but thank you guys for another episode. It was nice to chop it up with AY once again on this lovely night.
I gotta go pee. I've been holding it in this whole time. Like I know you've seen me like looking down.
I'm about to say because like
I'm
you
like,
stopped talking.
"Ooh."
Like no offense, but that was the longest you went without talking for a while. So
I gotta
I
go
knew there
take
was something
a
wrong.
piss.
So you can play the music.
I've
You
been
can
sitting
take
here
us
this whole
out.
time.
Go ahead.
Give me a second. I should have had it pulled up.
Yeah, so I just want to thank you guys for hanging with us again. Like I said, we still are trying to figure out how we're going to do 2 episodes a week. We shoot for Sunday and Wednesday, but Wednesday usually works better for us. But we're going to figure it out, and we're going to keep pushing out content, and we're going to let Hill take us out. Thank you.
I like cheese.
See they don't know me for real. They know the old me, yeah, they wish that they could hold me for real. I got my hands into some shit that only God tell. But when they ask me how are things, I say things well. Shit like a prison cell, but it don't matter. I'm blessed more than enough. I swear this life shit like a quiz. So far I'm testing good enough.